I would like to introduce you to Mr. John Leguizamo.
Thank you, thank you. What a nice reception.
Yeah, pretty big crowd.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for coming out here. This is great.
Yeah, my first time in Baltimore. I love it. People are great, yeah.
It's a good way to have your first visit is to a Comic Con.
Yeah, because you meet everybody in the whole city.
Yeah. Well, speaking of everybody, I think you have played. You've been in like over 100 films.
Not all of them good though.
No, but you were good in them.
I was good in them. The movies, man, I've been so good, but I was good. Thank you.
You started off. We will take questions. We're just gonna start with a little thing here. So you were, I won't bring up John Wick first. I just did. Okay.
Yeah, you did. I got cut out of 2. Yeah, I had a monologue, I had jokes, I had a big fight sequence, and I went to see the premiere, and I was like, oh my God, they cut me out. Yeah.
Extended release.
Yeah, so I'm not watching the rest.
Oh. Well, did you dance in it? Because I heard you're a really good dancer.
No. I should have. Maybe that would have kept me in.
Okay. Well, when you started, you kind of got your first recognition in Super Mario Brothers. Yes. So we have a couple.
Couple Luigis and Mario.
Couple Luigis here.
Yeah, there's another Mario right there.
Then you've got Carlito's Way.
Yes.
Tu Wong Fu, Romeo and Juliet. It's got some people who like your stuff. You were in ER. You were that one character that we can't talk about.
Yeah.
In Spawn.
The pest. The pest. The violator in Spawn. Yeah.
So, but you do so much more than just act. You write. You were a stand-up comic. You produce, you do everything. So is there one thing that you really love to do more than the others?
I love my live performances on stage. That's always been my favorite, just because I feel it's like an artist being the rawest you can be. I'm really myself, and it's my writing, so it's my thoughts as well, and being there with the audience is really intimate and a beautiful experience. I especially my last show, Latin History for Morons, I felt like, thank you. I felt like I did so much research, and I really wanted to change the script on the way America saw Latin people and the way we saw ourselves too, because there's so much erasure about our contributions in America, because we didn't just get here. We've been here for 500 years, and before that we were empires, and yet we're invisible in all of American history, which is crazy, because 10,000 of us fought in American patriots, unknown patriots, and 20,000 of us fought in the Civil War, but you never hear about that.
Yeah. But you write.
I love my writing.
Writing is, as a writer, it's a really, really great way to express yourself. And you had just had a comic come out last year?
Yeah, last January,
Yeah, in January.
That Image Comics, Todd McFarlane, who did Spawn, he published for me. So it was a real big honor. I had to go through a lot of tests. He read it. He had to prove it, each issue, and gave me some advice. It was great. It was a great experience.
So, and that's Phenom X, and you do have copies of that?
Yes,
available?
we have. I'm signing copies of it, and Todd did a cover for me, an alternate cover of episode 1.
That's awesome. So it's Max Gomez is the main character.
Yes, it is.
And he's wrongly imprisoned. He gets superpowers from experiments.
Yeah. What I was trying to address were a couple of issues. So, there's a lot of toxins and plants and stuff that are put in people of color's neighborhoods. So instead of it killing this neighborhood in LES, they get these powers, and they're immune to toxins and radiation, and then the government wants to recruit them to fight the villains in New York City. LES in the house.
But you have books, Ghetto Clown.
Yes.
You can pick that one up at the table, but I'd get it quick because they're
going
quick.
fast. Eisner nominated. I didn't win, but
Eisner nominated. And then you've got, there's just so much. You've just done so much. How was your writing, did it feel writing like you've written a book and then you've written a comic book? How was that experience different for you?
Oh, very different. Because the comic book was almost like a movie, so I'm more used to writing that way because I mostly do movies, so I'm used to that sort of that paradigm, which is like a 3-act structure, but it's a little looser. It's very plot driven, and then the book is different because it's more about how do you move the plot forward through language, through ideas, not as plot heavy.
Yeah. Okay. I figure you all have a lot of questions. Is that correct? You have a question? He's been here. This is third one. So we're just going to open it up to some questions.
Absolutely. Do your thing.
Go ahead.
Well, I hope this is the memories that we're going off the goals. Hope this isn't the one you weren't going to talk about. But given that it's the 20th anniversary of the movie, I was wondering how do you end up being involved in the movie Ice Age, and given how it's gone on to like several sequels and TV specials, has the experience evolved and changed for you over the course of it?
Oh, that's so interesting. He's talking about Ice Age and how it evolved. You know, when I first started, I was the first person cast, and it was a drama. And then my part had jokes, but that was it. And it was a different cast. And then they tried recording it, it didn't work, and they let that cast go except me. And then they started making it funnier and funnier until, you know, the one that you saw. And Chris Wedge was, you know, brilliant animator. And, the characters kind of grew. We grew, and the humor grew. It got more physical and more verbal, because I'm very verbal, so they added a little, you know, we tried improvising too. That didn't work. We tried like improvising with the other actors. We were all in the same room, but you can't do that because we start overlapping and you can't separate the voices, so that was a big experiment that went nowhere.
I'm still trying to figure out, it's a drama. Right here.
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk about your experience working on Moulin Rouge. I love Moulin Rouge.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's talking about Moulin Rouge and my experience on Moulin Rouge as Toulouse-Lautrec. You know, Baz Luhrmann is one of our genius auteur directors, you know, and I had done Romeo and Juliet with him, which was an incredible experience. Oh, thank you. And he's very, you know, he's a perfectionist, so we had 2 weeks of rehearsals for Romeo and Juliet. For Moulin Rouge, we had a month of rehearsals in Australia, and, you know, I had to go through speech classes because I had the impediment, because Toulouse-Lautrec was the son of 2 first cousins, which is the reason why people don't have kids from first cousins. Because he had a lot of issues. You know, his tongue was cartilage-like, and his lips were cartilage-like, so he drooled and had a lot of speech impediments. So I tried to recreate that in the character. Doing Moulin Rouge was incredible. We were in Australia for like 8 months. It was really long, but beautiful working together, and the cast we just enjoyed it, you know. And I got to sing, and they fixed my voice, so I sounded better. The magic of auto-tune, correct.
Sing. Well, you're singing more though. You have a.
I sing in the movie that I'm not. Encanto.
Yeah. No, I meant no Encanto.
We don't talk about, you know.
But you have one of your plays one of your theater.
No, I don't sing. I mean, I might sing, but just to get laughs.
Oh.
No, I don't take myself seriously singing.
Okay.
And I hope you don't either.
Let's go right here in the front row.
No one yet has mentioned one of my favorite movies of yours.
What's that?
Summer of Sam.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's interesting. I just went to Spike's, teaches a class at NYU for the last 20 years on film, and he invited me and Michael Imperioli, who co-wrote Summer of Sam, and he showed it to the class, and we did a Q&A with the class and talked about our experience doing Summer of Sam, which was an incredible experience for me. It was one of my highlights in my life, because Spike really trusted us and let us improvise a lot, and we felt safe, and we did some edgy work that I wouldn't feel comfortable with other directors. And we went to Cannes together with that flick, which is my first time going to Cannes, which is the big film festival in France. And working with Spike was, it was a highlight of my life. He's an actor's director. Like, he really understands the craft and how to give you the space to really exist as an artist.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit real quick about Kiss My Aztec.
All right.
I just really wanted to say
Yeah,
that.
no, I kind of saw that in your face. You wanted to say that word. Well, it's my foray into musicals, and I wrote this musical, Kiss My Aztec, about the Aztec conquest, and it's about a rebel group that is fighting the Spaniards to liberate themselves, and you know, the rest is history. And hopefully we're going to Broadway either this spring or 2023 or fall of 2023.
That's awesome. Everybody should go see that, just based on the name alone.
Thank you.
Right back there. Basically, she's asking about his journey from starting out as acting and then going into producing and education, really.
Yeah. I guess you get older, you feel a little more responsible about the planet and how you want to leave your legacy. And so yeah, I'm politically active. I'm an activist. You know, I do as much as I can to fight for what's right and for the vulnerable, protect the vulnerable. That's kind of my mission for myself. And then, you know, get to help the next generation get their start. You know, I feel like I've been very lucky in Hollywood and Broadway and in publishing, and I want to be able to give other people the opportunity as well, you know, that to find their talent and their voice, you know. So I do mentor a lot, and I started producing to get more Latin, especially to get more Latin content out there, because we're 20% of the population, 30% of the box office, 30% of streamers, 30% of sports fans, but you see we're less than 2% of the leads in movies. So I'm trying to correct that wrong, you know. So yeah, I'm kind of like a, yeah, thank you.
Did you have a question? No? Too shy? Okay. Let's get somebody way back there, the blue shirt.
Did chef come natural to you, like being that you grew up in like a Latin household with food being around and everything? Did that really feel like a very family kind of experience making that movie?
Everybody heard that, right? Yeah. He's got a good voice.
Yeah.
You project well. Yeah, I mean, Chef, you know, it's interesting. Jon Favreau, I'm a huge fan of his work. He basically helped create, you know, the independent film of the 90s, you know, with Swingers. And this film was his way to skewer Hollywood. So the truck is him going, it represents independent film for him. And the critics and the restaurant, the guy who was giving them the money was the producers. Yeah, I mean, my role was not written. I improvised every line. And John trusted me to, you know, he says, I didn't write any lines for you. You just have to ad-lib. And so, you know, I was ad-libbing away. And yeah, growing in a Latin household did help me, you know, have that kind of friendly improv quality to my personality. And I went to a restaurant and studied for 3 months. And so I could look authentic in the movie. And so did John. John studied a lot. We all gained a lot of weight. John a little bit more than me, but he had a lot more work to do.
That's great. Back here. Yeah.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I actually work with a lot of people all over the world as a life coach and helping them with their mental health, including actors like yourself. And with being a Latino yourself and seeing how the mental health has really taken a really big hit, especially since the pandemic, how are you, protecting your own mental health and really working to keep yourself grounded? And how
Wow, that's a lot of good questions
Yeah.
right there, and thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, obviously the pandemic was really hard on a lot of communities in America and around the world, and yeah, it was especially for Latinx because they were the first responders and essential, non-essential workers, and so it was really difficult for the Latin community. Yeah, mental health. And there's a lot of things about being a star that nothing in the world prepares you for the crazy ups and downs that are kind of abnormal, and you have to protect yourself. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for therapy. I started going to therapy since I was 17 because they wouldn't let me back in school unless I was seeing a professional. I was a problem child. That's a polite word for what I was. And so, yeah, I've been in therapy. I still am in therapy, and that's always helped me stay grounded a lot. During the pandemic, it wasn't in person anymore. It was on FaceTime on the phone, and I didn't think I would be able to do that. But because I always thought he when we did phone that he was not paying attention, that he was doing other things.
Doing a crossword.
Crossword puzzles, doing gardening. I don't know, whatever I think he was listening. Because he was always saying, what? And I was like, oh, you weren't listening. But no, I felt like it really worked for me. The projects that I really want to do, I want to start doing a lot more historical pieces about Latin culture. And definitely one of my missions is in publishing is to get Latin history and our contributions. And Scholastic is really helping me do that at Macmillan Books and Simon & Schuster. They're all helping me get this information out there because there's so much great things that Latin people have brought to the world and to America, 500,000 of us fought in World War II. There were some great heroes there. This guy, Gil Bosques, saved 40,000 Jews in Vichy, France. And nobody ever talks about this man. He got 2 churches and filled each one with 20,000 Jews and then helped them get asylum in Mexico. He was a Mexican diplomat and gave them asylum. And you never talk about him. But so stories like that, there's thousands of them. We invented the electric brake, the birth control pill, the color television, the pen. I know that's not a big deal, but it kind of is.
The pen. I use that every day. Right here. Oh. I'll get you next.
Thank you. All right.
I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, the pandemic, was tough for everybody. It gave me time to reboot myself and to really think about what was important in my life. And it was my writing. It took me back to my writing and writing for Broadway and writing plays, which was my first love when I was 17. I started, my acting teacher, my math teacher, Mr. Zufa, told me, I was a problem. I was disruptive in his class, and he said, instead of, disrupting the class because you have the attention span of a sperm, Mr. Leguizamo, he said, why don't you become a comedian? Because, if they can make penicillin out of moldy bread, there's something we can do with you. And so I started acting then, and plays was the thing that made me feel like, oh my God, connected to the world, and it gave me a purpose. So I went back to that in the pandemic. Working with Keanu was amazing. He's like one of the humblest people I ever met. And super, super generous. He gives tons of money to small theaters across America, that aren't making a great living, but they're doing great work, and he gives them tons of money. He was so fun to work with, and David Leitch was one of the directors of John Wick 1. He was a blast. He just produced a movie that comes out December 2 called Violent Night. Yeah. Yes, and you're gonna love that. It's so David Leitch. Is very funny, very violent. Yeah, you're gonna dig it.
So excited for that. If you haven't heard of that, it's Beverly D'Angelo, David Harbour. Yeah, it's gonna be great. All right.
Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
Your work and your plays.
Oh, thank you.
I'm also a Mets fan. And I thought that I
Next year, next year.
Yeah, it's gonna happen next year. What's your favorite Mets memory that you have being a fan?
Oh, wow. You know, I used to not be able to afford Shea Stadium, so I used to go and stand on the train and watch, you know, Doc Gooden and Strawberry. I got to meet Keith Hernandez once. That was really cool experience for me.
That may have been like, that's a great memory though, even though you couldn't like afford to go in
yeah,
there. It's like a great
yeah,
memory.
it is a great memory.
All right, right here in the descent.
On the IMDb page for Spawn, it says that in the scene where the violator eats pizza from a trash can, you had to eat live maggots. Is that true?
You want to
His question is, in Spawn, it says on IMDb that when he ate pizza from a trash can, that he had to eat live maggots.
True. But I only did one take. I said, if you don't get this, I'm not doing it again. I'm not repeating.
When you saw that in the script, or when they told you you had to do that, what was your reaction like?
One take. Get those cameras ready. If you make a mistake, if it's out of focus, bye.
That's great. Did you have a question? Okay.
Every artist has a passion project, The Rock and Black Adam. What's your equivalent? And when will we see it?
Well, I'm writing this play that I hope is a great American play, and I can join the legions of Arthur Millers and Eugene O'Neills and Sam Shepard's. It's in the works right now. It's about a Latin family living in Long Island that faces a terrible tragedy, and yeah, hopefully it'll see the light of day.
That's awesome. All right. You've been very patient.
So I have a question. What is one piece of advice you would tell your younger self?
To tell myself, my younger self, I mean, it's always about believing in yourself, and how do you get to believe in yourself? Because, I mean, I was pitching Hollywood Latin stories for the last 40 years, and I always thought, oh man, maybe my stories aren't good enough, maybe my writing isn't good enough. But I was winning awards on Broadway, out of critics, OBs, drama desks, Tonys, nominations, Emmy nominations, but I couldn't sell scripts, and I thought, my writing must suck. But I then realized, no, it's not my writing. They were never going to greenlight a Latinx project. They just weren't. And I wish I'd believed in myself more. I mean, I'm not sure what I could have done with extra belief, but maybe I could have been a Tyler Perry earlier on.
And tell yourself to take that math class with that teacher.
Yeah.
Right over here.
So, I love all your roles a lot. Like everything you do, like you said earlier, movie themselves might not be the best, but you're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I was going to ask you about, my most favorite role of yours is the clown in Spawn. It's so different than anything you've done. But then you start talking about how, how theater was your original passion, and how, like, I'm more curious of, what was your experience of being Mercutio? Because that, I feel like must have been a dream to do a version of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you said that, because I wanted to be Mercutio, and he wanted me to be, Baz Luhrmann wanted me to be Tybalt. And I auditioned for Mercutio, but I didn't get it. I beat out Benicio del Toro for Tybalt only because he mumbles. Benicio's like one of the great actors, and part of his great gift is that mumbling is incredible. I'm not so mumbly. Yeah, doing Tybalt was incredible. I mean, we had 2 weeks with Leo DiCaprio, and we had acting teachers, and we did all the scenes, and it was such I mean, when Baz Luhrmann directs, it's like being in a workshop with a master teacher, and you just really, you feel like this is what I signed up for, you know, like to really do the work, not to just show up or just to be of service, but to really examine the scenes, the characters. Yeah, I mean, Romeo and Juliet was amazing for me. He got me a flamenco coach because he wanted me to move like a flamenco player, a dancer, and I did 3 months of gun work And I had black and blues all over my feet because I kept dropping them. And they kept moving me from hotel rooms because they kept falling on the floor and people would complain. So I started practicing the gun work on top of the bed so I wouldn't have to move hotel rooms anymore. But I got so good that when you see the movie, that's all me doing all the gunplay. I got really, really good, and no stunt double, no cuts. I could do it all in one. It was really difficult, but I mastered it.
That's great. All right, how about, I've got, you asked one question, so I'll have to get to you right there, Pac-Man.
Hey, John, we met earlier.
Yes, how are you?
Good to have you. I guess my question would be is, you're dabbling into education for the Latinx community and stuff like that. Given that you put that cape on, it seems like you're at the forefront. Do you have any drive to kind of focus, you mentioned World War II, from the Latin community and Hispanic community serving in the military? Because that's one thing I feel that we're not focused on. Yeah, I mean, I served in the Army.
Yeah.
You have Audie Murphy, for example. But I feel like with some, when it comes to Medal of Honor winners, you don't see no highlights of what our contributions are. Is that something that you'll be focusing on, or even possible, like Roberto Clemente? Like
Yes.
He not only was a Pittsburgh Pirate, he was Puerto Rican, but he also served in the Marines too. Is that something in the future you think you might be dabbling into?
I definitely want to bring attention to our contributions and sacrifices that we made for the United States. Definitely, in a couple of the books that I'm writing, I'm definitely delving into that information, especially for scholastics. I'm trying to find and dig up all the heroes in Revolutionary War, American Revolutionary War, Civil War. We were the only ethnic group that's fought in every single war and the most medaled of all ethnic groups in each of the wars, in every single war America's ever had. So I want to go in there and find all these heroes. In World War I, Marcel Cerna was shot in Germany, and they were shooting as platoon, and he was wounded, and they were still shooting, and he went and shot 20. He had a platoon of 24, and he killed like 4 or 5 Germans and saved his platoon. He got a Croix de la Guerre and a Purple Heart. So heroes like that, yeah, I'm going to highlight all of them in these books.
When you said put on that cape, I thought he was going to ask what your superpower would be.
Oh yeah, the one coming out in the Amazon, the Power.
Yeah.
Yeah. That comes out in April.
He's got so much coming out. It's like crazy. Every question's like been on a different movie. I think it is, or production. I think that's incredible. Let's go right here.
Hi, thank you. I want to ask, what was your experience working on film Carlito's Way with
See?
Al Pacino and the rest of that cast in general?
Yeah, Benny Blanco from the Bronx in Carlito's Way.
Very pivotal towards the end, which was unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, the script was incredible. David Koepp is one of the great American filmmakers. I think he might have had the biggest hits of any screenwriter in America. And Judge Torres wrote the original book about Carlito's Way, a fictional character in Spanish Harlem. And working with Pacino, I mean, he was, as an actor, he's like a god, one of the great, him and De Niro and Jack Nicholson to me and Brando are the greatest American actors. And Sean Penn, I thought, stole the movie. He was so brilliant in that. And so it was an amazing experience. I mean, in Carlito's Way is when I really learned about my acting. De Palma, we did Casualties of War with Sean Penn before, and then he trusted me this time, and he gave me, back then we shot in film. And it was hard to get takes. He gave me 50 takes on my entrance. So he taught me how to act on film, because I did something different every time. The one time I came in, I knocked the waiter's tray down, and De Palma laughed. The next time I came in, and I poured champagne on somebody, and I would just do crazy things. And I discovered that there is no wrong take. There's not. You can just try and experiment, and that's what acting is playing and experimenting and being yourself and being impulsive.
I think it's great. You seem to learn something from every single role that you do. It's not just a job. It's it's an education in every single role, and that's so impressive. Okay, who hasn't asked a question? Back there.
Yeah, thank you. It does take a lot of courage. I'm not gonna lie, because I've had when you talk about your family, it always causes family friction possibly for eternity. But I bought my mom a house, so she loves me again. I think most artists do it sort of through fiction. You write about yourself and you fictionalize it, which is the safer way. For some reason, I always had to use myself, and I think I helped in America create sort of the autobiographical work, which may become detrimental for American storytelling at some point. Everybody just telling their own stories, but I felt like the Latin story was missing, and I felt like my small story could be so inspiring to a lot of Latinx youth. So I wanted to be really real and really resonate. So that's why I wrote Freak, so that people can understand you could have a lot of problems and have a lot of difficulties, but you can still overcome if you have hope and if you put your nose to the grindstone.
That's great. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, one of my favorite comedies of all time is The Pest. I still sing that song almost every day. But what was your the biggest thing you took away from that, or the thing you enjoyed the most about that movie? Because it looks just like you had a blast.
I did have a blast doing The Pest. I had a lot of fun. I mean, I've never acted that ridiculous in my entire life. Maybe when I was young, I was that crazy, but it was tapping into the John that I was in my neighborhood. The crazy John, and so I enjoyed that part of myself, because you kind of leave that as you grow up. You lose some of that madness that was kind of freeing. Yeah, I had a blast, man. I mean, the actors I were working with on that they were so much fun. Jeffrey Jones, Freddie Rodriguez. Yeah, it was a great cast, man. I thank you. I really enjoyed that flick, and I know it became it didn't do really well when it hit the box office, but it became this classic cult film, and Sony asked me to do a sequel, but I don't know. I felt like I had aged out already.
Look, they're all like, no. All right, Ash. No, you're Misty.
Hi, I guess, so we loved you in Tuafu, and you worked with iconic actors like Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze. So I guess I have two questions. One is, what is the favorite part you played? And two, the best and worst advice you've gotten in your set? Thanks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those are good questions. Yeah, Tu Wong Fu was incredible, man, because it was sort of pioneering at the time. I mean, obviously we couldn't play those roles today, and we shouldn't, because we should let real LGBTQ plus play those roles and not take roles away from actors who are LGBTQ. But we were really trying to do it as authentically and with a lot of dignity. And I've gotten a lot of teenagers come up to me and say that watching Chichi Rodriguez gave them the courage to come out in their family, gave them courage as teenagers and hope. So I'm glad that we did work that impacted youth, vulnerable youth in America. The best advice I got when I was young was from my acting teacher. He told me to say yes to everything. And I did, I did student films, I did plays, I did old age homes, I did whatever I could to make it. And the worst advice was, I think Hollywood always tells you to stay in your lane, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna do whatever I want, however I want, and that's
awesome. See, the New York hat.
I love that film.
I guess my question is, all the movies that you've done, who would you say is one of your favorites?
All right, you want to repeat this?
I couldn't hear the last part.
I was wondering who would you
Who was your favorite actor or producer to work with?
Oh, wow. There's been a lot of people I like. There's been a lot of people I didn't like, too. But I like to focus on the positive. Oh, wow. Favorite director. That's tricky, man. Because I loved working with Baz Luhrmann and Brian De Palma, Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay was amazing to work with, Brad Furman, and actors. Wesley Snipes was a blast to work with. De Niro I've really enjoyed working with. Bryan Cranston was was really, really generous. What a generous actor. He's really selfless. We did Infiltrator together, which was a blast. I played his buddy in that flick.
I think you need to do a movie with Edgar Wright.
Yeah. You're right. I got it.
Let's get that going on Twitter. All right. Have you asked a question? You have not. Okay.
I'm going to break a rule and ask about Bruno. Maybe for two reasons. One, because I'm here with my kids. I love being able to share your work with my family, but also because it seemed important that movie was based in Colombia specifically, and not just in some general or non-Latinx background. We've talked about that many times. And I wanted to find out if that drew you to the project, especially because I know I've read that you have a Colombian background.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, Encanto was, Lin-Manuel called me and Jared Bush and Brian Howard, the directors, and they offered me the part of Bruno, and it was like, what? This is incredible. And they said, we've gone to Colombia, we did research, and Lin went to Colombia, and they cast mostly Colombian actors. I mean, that's the way Hollywood needs to make Latin films, is to hire real Latin people who can, who are writing, directing, and acting, and making things authentic, and giving them specificity, because people understand when things are generic. It just doesn't ring true, and it doesn't have that vitality. So yeah, it was such an honor to be in a movie that really represented Latinx. I mean, it had all the hair textures, the skin colors. That's how my family looks. We all look a different color. That's how we come out. Dark skin, light skin, straight hair, super curly hair. That's how we look.
Did the cast have any idea that this was going to take off the way it did? I mean, it was everywhere. It was like #1 songs, and did you have any idea?
The cast might have. I didn't know. I had no clue. I go, this is such a blast to do. I'm having so much fun. The music is amazing, but you don't know how things are gonna resonate. And it was a shock when it was like #1 song in the world. In the world. And then Under Pressure was like the #9 song in the world, and it beat out Frozen. It was incredible. And it was so amazing that Disney gave us all an extra check.
Oh, that's nice.
And the mouse don't do that.
They don't. That's the quote of the con. The mouse don't do that.
Yeah, the mouse don't give checks for nothing.
All right, in the green.
Hi. So, I graduated from film school with my degree in digital cinematography, so I kind of relate to you with saying, reading scripts all the time and, the endless amount of scripts I've read. So, without, breaking any rules or anything, what is a script that you've read for, a role or something that you, automatically were like, I want to sign on to it, but didn't get?
Oh, that didn't get. The didn't get, I kind of block out a little bit, because I tend to be bitter. Yeah, I don't know why, but I'm a little bitter. Maybe you noticed that anyway. It's easier for me to say that Violent Night was one of the scripts that I read that I loved immediately. I was laughing out loud. There's a lot of scripts that I read that I just fall asleep and can't even get through the whole thing. That one I read all the way through. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I was supposed to be in. I didn't end up doing it. That's one of the ones that I was bitter. Trying to think of what are the bitter roles. Collateral. I had 4 callbacks, and Jamie Foxx beat me out. That was tough. That was a tough one too. There's a lot of those.
It's like, oh. All right, we got to go now. No, I'm just kidding. Right here. Have you asked? You haven't.
I'm a Latina comic book retailer.
Oh, wow.
And I just want
brown, sorry, I'm getting
It's okay.
to brown boys and girls who come into the store and ask, what do I recommend? I also have a comic book podcast called Combate y Comics, where we actually reviewed Phenomics on episode 137, so check it out because I think you'll be happy.
Oh, I can't wait. Episode 137. I gotta remember that. Somebody write it down.
Highlight the Latinx representation in the comic book industry as creators, characters, and fans. But my question to you is, what responsibility did you feel when presenting these Latinx creators and culture in Phenomics in this medium where it isn't really presented a lot, and when it is, it's all wrong?
Yeah, you know, it's fascinating, your question, because Latinx have been drawing. We have been drawing since the 40s. Alex Schomburg was Puerto Rican. He did all the Captain Americas and Submariner, I think, as well. Garcia Lopez.
Oh, who's here this weekend?
Yeah. We are illustrators, but we don't get a chance to be the heroes or the writers. So my comic book Phenomics is all Latinx illustrator, penciler, writer, and character. And I wanted to make sure that, you know, there's so much talent out there. I wanted to bring him with me, you know, boost everybody with me because I could. and then it was great that Todd McFarlane loved the book and gave me the opportunity, because Image is the third largest comic book publisher after Marvel and DC.
Yes. What's the name of your store?
Heidi Ho Comics in Santa Monica, California.
I've been there. I own all comics in Muncie. Sorry. Okay. Now that we're done with that. Over here. I see two hands. One behind you. Yeah. Yeah.
So my wife has texted me about a half dozen times to ask you to write your time on ER.
It's time on ER.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it was an incredible opportunity. I really love my character, Victor Clemente, but it was too hard, so I quit. And I'm not a quitter. I never quit, but I had to quit because they do 80 pages where everybody else does 50, so you have to memorize like almost a double script, and the dialogue is so difficult. I just had to be there at 5 a.m. to work with a doctor to explain what I was saying, because I didn't understand what I was saying, and then for him to show me the surgeries. And then the weekends were spent memorizing, and I'd get home like at midnight because it was like 14-hour days, and I was like, I can't do this for 5 more years. I can't. I'm not gonna make it. So yeah, I quit. But I did love my time there. It was run like a clock. Everybody was so professional. They are practical jokers, and I didn't like that. No, they did a lot of stuff to me because I was new, and you know, these 80 pages of dialogue. I was the head doctor, so I had massive amounts of dialogue. They do oneers, so 1 10-minute shot. That if you get a mistake, you have to start again, and they would do my medicines too tight, so by the time I got to the end and I'm gotta give somebody their medication, I couldn't open it, so I started cursing and cut. So I went to do it again, and then this time they tied all the rubber gloves together, so when I pulled it out, there was a whole string of rubber gloves coming out of the box, cut. And then we do it again, and I have to reach for the phone, and I reach for the phone, and there's Vaseline on the receiver. And I'm like, oh, God, damn it, you guys got to stop with the jokes. I can't take it. You're killing me.
Thank your wife for that question. All right, you in front. Yeah. Suffer from writer's block.
You know, I've never really suffered from writer's block. I mean, I've suffered from panic attacks and fear of failure. Those are the things that really get me more. That, you know, I went on David Letterman, who was, you know, my biggest hero of the time. You know, I was a kid, and he was like the funniest man to me. And I'm on his show, and I was so excited. I was doing Romeo and Juliet, and I came out there, and my hands were so cold. and I was shaking, and I couldn't talk, and I was stuttering, and I bombed. I was so panicked. I felt like a deer in headlights. I just couldn't even. He'd ask me questions, and I would hear no. And I was like, I was terrible. So I suffer from that sometimes.
All right. And the red over there? Who's your favorite superhero, and if you had powers, what would they be?
My favorite superhero, I guess, as a kid, I think Wolverine, I guess because he was short. Well, he's supposed to be short anyway. He's supposed to be 5'4", Canadian. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not 5'4", but I'm 5'8", so it's kind of short. So I related to that. What would my superpower be? I mean, I guess camouflage seems kind of cool because I'm an actor. I guess sometimes I want to disappear. I don't know. The Invisible Man definitely could help me.
That's amazing. All right, we probably have time for one more question. We'll go over there. Haven't been over there. You, green.
Question about your movie Empire. Was it intimidating to work with Fat Joe and the Terror Squad?
That movie was intimidating to make. Empire, a gangster flick. Frank Ray is the director, author, writer, based it on his brother's life. So it's a true story. We shot in the South Bronx, and we were shooting there, and they were shooting at us, like literally, because they want us to get out of there because we were stopping whatever illicit activities they had. And so I had to, when I went in my trailer, I had to turn off the lights and lay on the ground. Wow. Yeah, for real. So it was kind of hard to do. And Fat Joe, you know, he is intimidating. But luckily I only had one scene with him. So I wasn't that intimidated.
All right, I know we had a lot more questions, but we are out of time. But John will be at your table, yes, and at Abrams also?
Yes, Abrams and I are together. Abrams published my book, Ghetto Clown Charlie Kochman. Thank you.
Yes, Charlie's awesome. So you can go down there, you can ask your question there. Make sure that your photo ops, his book it is getting low quantities, so let's sell it out for him. So thank you so much for being here.
You're amazing. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Much love.
Hey, this is Alex Malari Jr., and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Your Emperor commands it. Thanks for watching.